Tell me what you were like as a child, and I'll tell you how long your relationships will last. The day before yesterday, a random person posted this comment to me. Why some relationships last a long time and others only last 2 days? Well, I don't know. Just kidding. Yes, I do. And soon you will too. Let's get started. One day, a man named Bowlby developed a strange theory about how babies behaved with their mothers. He called this strange theory attachment theory. Attachment is supposed to be a deep and lasting emotional bond between a child and their primary caregiver, who is usually the mother. This curious man worked with orphaned children, separated from their families during World War II, and discovered that children who were separated from their mothers experienced extreme distress, a lot of anxiety, and many emotional difficulties as well. His curiosity got the better of him, so after that, he began studying hospitalized children who spent a lot of time separated from their mothers, and saw that these children went through 3 phases all the time. First, they protested and cried and screamed and looked everywhere for their mother. Then they would become desperate and finally turn into bossy babies and detach themselves completely. Sometime after all this, a woman named Mary Ainsworth arrived and decided to help Bowlby a little. She put a mother and baby in an unfamiliar room to play. She introduced a complete stranger into the room suddenly to interact with the baby. She then took the mother out of the room, leaving the baby with the stranger. She observed the baby's reaction to the stranger without the mother, and then brought the mother back in to interact with the baby again, observing how the baby reacted when the mother returned. This experiment, which seems very strange for studying how babies interact with their mothers and appears to have nothing to do with why relationships last or not, has much more to do with it than you might think. I'm not going crazy just yet. Going back to the woman I mentioned earlier, this girl made it possible to distinguish between 3 types of attachment: secure attachment, anxious attachment, and avoidant attachment. Some children become very distressed when their mother leaves and calm down when she returns. These children have secure attachment. Other children become extremely distressed when their mother leaves and are very dependent on her, finding it very difficult to calm down when she returns. These children have anxious attachment. According to this woman who seems to have nothing better to do than run these experiments. And there are children who couldn't care less if their mother leaves or whether she comes back. These children have avoidant attachment. Well, according to some scientific studies like this one, it seems that attachment styles are reflected in adult relationships. Some researchers analyzed 345 heterosexual couples, analyzed their attachment styles, and analyzed their relationships to try to establish a correlation and see if there was any relationship between these 2 things. They followed all the couples for a year, and then followed up with another 30 months of telephone interviews. They also followed up with all the couples again after 7 years. Just kidding. They didn't do any more follow-ups. They analyzed the data mathematically and came to the following conclusions. It was rare to find 2 people with the same attachment style in a relationship. Couples with an avoidant man who didn't care about anything and an anxious woman tended to have a lot of conflict, but they were among the most stable. On the other hand, if an anxious man and an avoidant woman got together, it was very likely that the relationship would end. But if a man with secure attachment was paired with a woman with secure attachment, the relationship was stable and satisfying, with mutual support, fewer problems, and better communication. That's why I really like the idea of, I love you, but I don't need you, but I love you. You're not indifferent to me. All of this makes sense, but it's a little strange that your relationship depends on how you were treated as a baby. I'm not entirely convinced, nor is a man named Gottman. In 1970, couples therapy was becoming popular in the United States, and Gottman, along with his wife, discovered that this therapy made no sense because it was based solely on assumptions and not on scientific conclusions. So, since he had a lot of free time, he and his wife started investigating. Our friend Gottman knew the magic of mathematics and its ability to measure and predict things. So he developed an observation lab where he placed couples, capturing them on video as they talked and resolved conflicts. He hooked them up to equipment to measure their physiological responses, such as heart rate, motor activity, and blood flow, and developed mathematical models to relate all of this to interactions and thus predict the probability of divorce for each couple. He must have liked this so much that he did it for 40 years, creating many more research laboratories and learning not only to predict the stability and success of relationships, but also to differentiate happy couples from unhappy ones, to identify predictors of divorce, to provide effective interventions based on scientific evidence to strengthen relationships, and to evaluate the effectiveness of couples therapy. But you don't care about that because you just want to know the conclusions. Well, don't worry. If you just want to know the conclusions, here they are. Gotham discovered 3 things that, if they occurred in a couple's interaction, predicted with over 90% probability that the couple would break up in the near future. The first was direct attacks on the other person's personality. For example, "You're so selfish and never think about me," or "You're an asshole." This was actually the strongest predictor of divorce. The second was a defensive attitude, responding to complaints with excuses or by blaming the other person instead of accepting responsibility. And the third was emotional stonewalling, which, for those who have no idea what it is, like me, consists of emotionally disconnecting from the conversation. The typical, yes, yes, whatever you want. But you know perfectly well that if you do what you want, you're dead. Gottman also discovered with his mathematical models that couples who maintain a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interactions, that is, 5 positive interactions for every negative interaction, are more likely to stay together and live happily ever after. But wait, there are still more conclusions to come. It doesn't end here. Gottman discovered that 69% of problems in a couple are perpetual. They have no solution. These problems are usually based on differences in personality, values, or lifestyles, and that happy couples did not resolve them. They simply learned to manage them without damaging the relationship. He also discovered that there were 7 things that all happy couples had in common. They knew each other deeply, expressed gratitude, and recognized each other's qualities. They were available when the other needed attention or support. They focused on each other's good qualities rather than their flaws. They didn't try to eliminate problems because they were aware that they couldn't be eliminated, but rather tried to learn to manage them without damaging the relationship. They supported each other's dreams and developed a shared identity as a couple with common values and lifestyles. After 40 years of studying this and drawing such important conclusions, Gottman wasn't slow on the uptake and came up with 2 couples intervention programs to make a bit of cash, some easy money. And it worked out pretty well for him. I hope these findings help you be happy and find the love of your life, and that you're happy with them too. I'll leave the scientific studies in the description in case you want to check them out. See you in the next video.